Welcome to another episode of The Heart of the Volunteer. I'm your host, Paul Cummings. This one today is kind of cool because for a lot of people in the fire service, if you know me at all, it's probably because of a song. And that was never really part of the plan. Years ago, I went through a call that stuck with me, and like a lot of us back then, you didn't talk about it. You just carried it. So I wrote. And I turned that into the firefighter song. What I didn't expect was how many people it would reach, how many messages would come in, how many people would say, "That's exactly how I feel." And that's when I started to understand something. There are parts of this job that we don't say out loud, but people still feel them. And sometimes music finds a way to say it. So when I came across Paul Richards, that's what caught my attention right away. Because he's doing that too. Different style, different approach, but the same idea. He's taking parts of this job that stick with you. He's taking parts of this job that stick with you and finding a way to put them into something people can connect with. He started something called When the Radios Go Silent. And I think that name hits on two things at once. Yeah, it's about the volunteer side. The tone's going off, fewer people answering, departments trying to hold it together. But it's also about what happens after the call, when everything goes quiet and you're left with it. Because the truth is, just because the radio goes silent doesn't mean it stops. And that's something we get into this conversation. Paul shares a story about being on a call, a firefighter going down, and being right there in the middle of it, doing CPR, riding with him, not stopping. And moments like that, they don't just disappear when it's over. You carry them. And for him, writing became a way to deal with that. Not to perform, not to build something, just to process it. And I understand that because I've been there. We talk about that in this one. We talk about where those songs come from, what they're really about, and why they seem to hit people the way they do. And we also get into the bigger picture, the volunteer struggle, the reality of trying to keep departments staffed, why people aren't stepping up the way they used to. But this one doesn't stay surface level. This one gets into what the job actually does to you and why people keep showing up anyway. There's a moment toward the end that really sums it up. I asked him why someone should do this. Why walk through the door? And he said, because you get the honor and the privilege of helping people. That's it. That's what all this comes back to. The job, the music, the reason people stay. So yeah, this one's a little more personal for me. But it's also one that matters because this is where those two sides of this, what we do and what we carry, finally meet. This is my conversation with Paul Richards. All right, welcome back to the Heart of the Volunteer. I'm your host, Paul Cummings, and today I'm welcomed by a very special guest, Mr. Paul Richards. Paul, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you? You caught me on a laid back day. I'm rocking my Gumby t-shirt.
Yeah.
You know, my little bit of sense of humor. You know, if a firefighter shows up on scene wearing a Gumby t-shirt, you got to know that they're in good hands.
Yeah, you got to smile for that, no doubt. So what a lot of people don't know is this is the second time we've tried this interview. Yesterday we tried recording this. First Paul went out on a call, and then midway through our interview, I went out on a call. So we're going to try this again and hope for the next 15 or 20 minutes that neither of us has to run out on a call and we don't have to try this for a third time. So Paul, I'm glad you came to me.
Reality there.
Yes, it is. But what I've got a lot I want to cover with you. Before we get to any of that, what I'd really like to know is who you are. First of all, where you're from, where you grew up, things like that. Let's talk about Paul outside the fire department, outside of everything else you got going on. Who's Paul the individual?
Well, Paul the individual, I was born in southern Ohio on the Ohio-Kentucky border, in the Scioto County, Ohio area, Greenup, Lewis County, Kentucky. West Portsmouth, Ohio. My dad was a volunteer firefighter on Washington Township, and he also was an EMT back in the day when they still had volunteer ambulance before, private services took up the contract. My dad worked his way up to squad chief on the ambulance side and always worked on the EMS side. But my service record, like, I came into the fire service late in life. I always wanted to be service oriented. I wanted to join the military, but medical conditions kept that out of the question. So I joined in 2015, and I did 5 years. And when we left there, and that's a whole volunteerality thing. We had funding issues at our department, and my chief was frustrated with it. And when he walked, he basically took all of us with him. Like, I had gear. I was, out of NFPA compliance. A lot of people were. And it was kind of, in a way, it was a good thing because it made them rebuild, because I come back actually to that department and it's a lot better now, right, as far as getting funding that they needed. But I was a lieutenant, and like your song, that firefighter song, inspired by a line of duty event, I've written some of my own in the more Appalachian singer songwriter for lane of that, for my Route 8 narration that I had in my own line of duty incident where I stepped up on. It was a 46 years of service, fire service veteran. And then that man, Ron, he set me straight a bunch of times when I first started. I highly respected that man. He went down on a cardiac arrest event on a motor vehicle accident that we were working late at night, and I was one of the first ones to get to him. I hollered at the Mayday, told him we need another ambulance, and assisted with CPR efforts, and I ended up going with the med unit. I didn't ask to, it just kind of happened. I got thrown in the back. I was being their human Lucas machine all the way to the hospital, and I never stopped. And I got recognized for that. Honestly, to this day, I still don't feel like I deserve it, even though everyone says, like, yeah, you did. But I'm an honorary chief. Those kind of awards that don't come lightly. They don't just give you an honorary chief award. Right. And a firefighter of the year award out of that. And then we left for the funding issues, and I spent a few years just kind of aimlessly wondering. And I found my way back to the department, and I joined my original department, and I also went down a ways, and I joined another neighboring department to kind of help out. Yep. And my former chief that was from originally, he's actually down there as a captain, and that man still forever has my back.
Yep. That's the beautiful thing, the brotherhood and the sisterhood. A lot of people outside the fire department don't understand. I often refer to this in a lot of my interviews and a lot of my conversations about recruitment these days is, kind of showing people what it is when you join. It's about going on the calls. It's about training. It's about, doing something out of the ordinary, but it's about helping the community. But a lot of people don't realize the family that you walk into. And when something happens in your life, and it doesn't have to be an emergency, anything, they'll drop virtually everything to come to the aid of you. So some of your best friends in the world come from this service. So yeah, I totally respect that.
And the reason, I was so late coming into the fire service, my father, he was trying to protect me. He didn't want me to see the things that we saw. But your song, I Do It Again, the beginning parts of that mirror my upbringing, like almost to a T.
Yeah, and you were hinting on that a little bit last night as we were talking about your origin story. How your dad was trying to shield you from that, and we got into a little conversation about that because I have children of my own, and my daughter, we were talking about shielding them. She tried the Explorer Post, didn't really, a couple years in, and then she lost interest in it. Didn't have the pride, the drive that I did. But my two boys coming up seem like they're going to take the torch, and I hope so because I'm not getting any younger, So.
Yeah, my dad tried, but it didn't work. I was too stubborn. I still knew what I wanted to do.
And we talk about it all the time, right? The title of the podcast, Heart of the Volunteer. Like, you talk about a late start in life. It doesn't matter when you start. The point is it's in there, right? We talk about that all the time, how there's something in your heart that pulls you to it. One of my assistant chiefs right now, he got a really late start. He was in his 50s, I think 51 or 52 when he got started, and just diligently it was the time of his life where it made sense, right? And I'm never involved in it up to that point, though. So it's never too late. So anyway, Paul, so let's so we got a little bit of your background covered. You're doing something unique that I know a little something about, going back in 15 years or so. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about that. But you're putting together a little initiative called When the Radios Go Silent. And I know you've referenced it in your songs, and I know there's a message behind that, behind When the Radios Go Silent, and it fits right into what we're trying to accomplish with this podcast. And it's obviously the shortage of volunteers, and even career departments are struggling in a lot of areas trying to recruit. So, why don't you talk a little bit about the initiative behind When the Radios Go Silent, and talk a little bit about the music that you're developing to support that initiative?
When I started it, like I just started just messing around, kind of almost started being like therapy for me. I write creatively, but I'm not a singer or songwriter. I don't have a band to give it to, so I use the digital tools to make my content. I don't hide behind that. I even have a song out, if you look at it, it's called Digital Firefighter, and it says, if the message gets out, why does it matter when it was written?
That's a good point.
Nobody cares how the water gets there when the house is on fire.
Yep.
But when I started it, it means dual meaning for the volunteer shortages. When the tones go off, who's going to be there to answer the call?
Yep.
And it's also for first responder mental health initiative. When the radios go silent and the call's over, that doesn't mean it doesn't stop playing in your head. And it's about reaching people in that way. And I've had a lot of success in that area too, to point that influencers on TikTok, therapists that counsel first responders, PTSD, DMR therapists have kind of told me, like, hey, the way you're writing, it kind of tracks clinically, it hits.
Absolutely.
And I get messages all the time from first responders, firefighters, thanking me, like, hey, thank you for writing this. This hit me. Like, I got a few that tell me they listen to my music and it makes them tear up every time they listen to it.
Absolutely. Nothing like that feeling in the world, is there?
No, it's not. I mean, we have to take care of our people. That's, the part of the volunteer,
Yep. Well, when you can convey some of your pain and some of your thoughts into lyrics. Music's a universal language, right? So, obviously, we talked a little bit about this last night. People that don't know me or maybe do, I had a similar experience back in 2008. Responding to a fatal structure fire where we lost a family of 4. And, back in the day, we didn't really talk about mental health that much. It was more of the good old boys club, just suck it up, move on, it's part of the job. But because it was a family, and because my daughter was on the way, she was like a month from being born, life was changing for me at the time. And to pull those bodies out of that house was hard to stomach, hard to comprehend. So what I did, shut myself up in the attic for what felt like 2 weeks, and wrote version after version after version of the Firefighter song, some of the most raw things that nobody will hear. But what was cool about that, Paul, is I wrote that for myself. I wrote that to heal me. And then I let a couple people listen to it. And then they let a couple people listen to it. And, it turned out to heal, I don't know how many people. And to this day, I still get emails. And, if there's anything that I can accomplish in this world, if one person can hear those lyrics and hear your lyrics and feel peace from that, from everything they've dealt with, sir, you've done so much for the fire service. So from me to you, that's how I found you, right? Like, your music slipped across my TikTok and kind of opened up this dialogue. So let's talk about a couple songs.
It's kind of ironic because I thought, I messaged you first. So I didn't know that you already kind of seen it beforehand.
Yep, absolutely. We that's the beauty of TikTok with the algorithms is, I'm a musician and I'm a firefighter. So what's it going to show me? I think just about every first responder song that comes out in this world comes across my TikTok. But yours, yours carry some special meaning. You've got a lot of different styles of music, from Nordic Viking sounding stuff to, you said, Appalachian country kind of vibes. You sent me 2 songs. Well, you sent me 2 songs, and I want to give you the opportunity. Let's spend a few minutes just talking about those 2 songs and why you sent them to me. And we'll go ahead and we'll have the listeners take a listen to them and see where we go from there. But tell me about these songs that you sent me.
Okay. Well, you asked me to send you 2 of the ones that I'm kind of promoing right now.
Yep.
When the volunteers go, where did the volunteers go? I actually previewed that like back in January when I first done it, and I just kind of felt with everything going on and your initiative, it was time to kind of re-promo it, and it got even more views than what it did the first time. First time I think got 3,000 views. I'm looking at it, it's like over, I think 4,000 last time I looked at it.
Yep.
But that's like probably the first ones I did on, so it's a signature track, you know, it's about the fire service, and it talks about, you know, it's not that people don't care, it's just when they're working so many jobs, like they're not able to like maybe have the time to do it. And then it's also a call out to the ones that are still here holding the line, like we're still showing up. I wrote it from like the dispatcher point of view, so it's a female singer, so you know, I'm not trying to say anything, most dispatchers sometimes they are. So it starts out, it's like she's paging the department out and nobody's answering, like, you know, and then she's like getting exasperated, like, any volunteer, any unit, please, you know, please mark up. And the whole time then singing the song and the narration about, you know, people not having the time to do it. And it goes, even has a little callback to the origins of the American Fire Service, Benjamin Franklin and the Union Fire Company, you know, talking about how neighbors used to show up to help neighbors on the bucket brigade just because they didn't want to watch each other's stuff burn away.
And you can take it back another century, right, with the Pilgrims when they landed, right? House burned down. What did they all do? The whole village came together to try to contain that fire. Right. It's been in the heart of America since the beginning, and it's just so fitting, you know, when you talk about the volunteer aspect of it, because obviously it's no secret that volunteerism around the country is struggling. But before we go ahead and talk about that, Paul, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to let everybody take a quick listen to a couple seconds of your song, and then we'll be right back.
Station 51. Respond for a reported structure fire. Station 51. Do you copy? Station 51. Please acknowledge. Tones dropping into empty air. Station 51, nobody there. Same streets, same houses, same smoke in the sky. Just fewer headlights cutting through the night. Pager on the table, boots by the door, but the chairs stay empty like they've been before. It's not a mystery, it's not pretend, it's a system stretched thin till it starts to bend. Where did the volunteers go when the tones still drop, but the seats stay cold? Same call, same smoke, same road, just fewer hands when the radios go silent. Used to be one job could carry a house, now it barely keeps the lights on. Clocks got louder, wallets got thinner, and the pager waits while the paycheck's gone. People still care, they're just running out of hours, trading turnout gear for overtime shifts. It's not that the heart disappeared, it's that life started charging interest. All units, any available? Any unit, please advise. Where did the volunteers go when the tones still drop, but the seats stay cold? Same call, same smoke, same road, just fewer hands when the radios go silent. They rang bells before there were radios. Buckets passed hand to hand in the street, not for a paycheck, not for a headline, just neighbors refusing to let neighbors bleed. We kept the oath, we kept the stories, built the backbone town by town. But tradition ain't a museum piece, it's only alive if someone's still around. Station 51, respond. Any station, any volunteer, please advise. It's not that the calls stop coming, it's not that the town stopped burning, it's not that people stopped caring, they just ran out of room to carry it all. When the radio goes silent, it's not always the end of the call. Sometimes it's the 51. We're responding.
Welcome back to the Heart of the Volunteer. Once again, we're back here with Paul Richards, the writer behind that song you just heard. So, Paul, very, very good. Let's talk about the next one, and then we'll get into. We got a little bit of time left. I want to talk about the volunteer crisis. We just kind of brushed on it with time. I want to go more in depth, but I want to hear more about the next song first.
Okay. The next one is Loki in the Rafters. It's a Nordic inspired. I actually wrote, I don't know what you want to call it, a saga. It's like 10, 11 track, just cinematic. And in my personal life, I hold non-traditional beliefs. I have a tattoo of Thor's hammer on my chest and a couple other things. I got my fire symbol, the Ankh for, eternal life.
Yep.
Most people, when they do their firefighter content, they post their Bible scriptures, stuff like that, which I'm all good. I respect all of that.
Yep.
Anything that you connect with, I'm good for.
Yep.
But when I'm out here responding to calls, I imagine myself as a warrior. Like we're going to battle against chaos, death, whatever. So to me, the fire, that's chaos, that's Loki. And then death is a representative of the Norse goddess Hel. Well, that's ironically. And it's kind of the firefight. It's a whole saga. It's this firefighters that keep showing up. They have, the gods on their side, which actually is symbolism. Thor for strength, perseverance. Tyr, it was the god of like duty, honor. He actually, if you read the mythology, he gave up one of his hands in service. And then Odin, the wisdom, they have the foresight and seeing things that nobody else wants to see. And it's these firefighters, they keep showing up, and it's mythical, but it's also at the heart of it. I'm not a psychologist or anything. I just know how to write, and this is where the therapists are honing in on it. It's really deep down describing first responder nervous system responses. Yep. Like the pull towards the death goddess, which I made it go a little dark romance theme. Hey, gotta be a little edgy, get people's attention, and there's people out there that like that aesthetic. Especially women. We got women first responders too. They might listen to that. Yep. But it's about that desire and that aspect that sometimes when you're battle weary, when you've seen too much on these calls, that sometimes you just want to lay the turnout gear down. You just want to rest.
Yes.
And it's a pull between that desire and then of course that's just the one song. The track.
I lace my boots by fluorescent light, but I was born for a more ancient night. Thor on my shoulder, Odin in my breath, a modern note in a house of death. Radio hisses, tones cut thin, like ravens calling me out again. Bunker code over a heathen chest, and no old God ever promised rest. For Loki laughs in the wire and spark, and the gas-fed bloom, and the blown-out dark, and the broken beam, and the stare that gives in every house that forgets how to live. Loki in the rafters, dancing in the flame, twisting wood and wiring, whispering my name. But I come with thunder, and I do not come alone. Thor within my heartbeat, Odin in my bones. If hell has marked the doorway, I will breach it all the same, and drag the living backward out of trickster fire and shame. I've seen
You said you got a whole
Obviously,
saga.
yeah.
Well, where
Yeah.
can people go, Paul, to check all this stuff out? If I want to go listen to the saga right now, tell people where they can go listen to this stuff.
On my Spotify, when the radios go silent. I'm also on Amazon and Apple Music too. YouTube. As far like for that saga, I recommend going to my YouTube page and
Okay.
clicking the playlist.
Okay.
Because I have a playlist made for it because it has the visuals that go with it, and the
Yep.
visuals are gonna like pull you more than just listening to the
Absolutely.
song.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, Paul, I'm very glad that we got to have that conversation. I'm sure more conversations like that coming down the road because as you know, I obviously release music too, and it's fun listening to you talk about it because a lot of the same things that you're talking about, the same things that I went through when I started doing this years ago. You know, I took some years off from music myself, but then got back into it a couple years ago. I said, you know, we went on the American Firehouse tour. And we played shows all around the country at different firehouses. And all I ever wanted at that time was an album of firefighter songs. I had the firefighter song, and I had a song called The Man I Am Today, Inside the Prayer. There might have been another one I just can't think of right now. But I wanted the whole album. It took me another 10 years to finally put it all together and come out with an album. So I commend you for the hard work you're doing. Music is the universal language that reaches everybody. So
Yeah, the
We've
firefighter content is what I seem to be getting known for, and that's important. I have a few things that aren't necessarily fire coded. Like I write about just regular like relationship trauma, which you know,
Yep.
being a first responder, we deal with that stuff too. Everything overlaps.
it does. Yeah.
Relationships, finances.
Yep. Well, I
So-
find too that I'm starting to write a little bit more generic, right? Because a lot of the feelings that we do go through, yeah, we're focused on firefighting, but there's a lot of industries that go through the same kind of anxiety roller coaster, the same kind of depression that can set in, the mental aspects of the job, the stress of the job. So, you know, the universal themes are important, I think, because we're all, at the end of the day, we're all in this ship together, right? Like we're all
Exactly.
sailing in the same rock in the center of the universe, and we got to be here for each other. So while we've got a few more minutes, Paul, the core of this podcast, and we've got about 5-6 minutes to discuss this. The core of this podcast is trying to bridge the gap between the community and the fire department, put to bed some of the myths that are out there, and try to make people understand just what it is that we do. So where you're from, okay, how is the situation as it comes to volunteers? Is it a daytime impacted thing? Tell me a little bit about your fire station right now. How many members are active? Let's start with that.
Well, there's the people on the roster and the people that show up. To be honest, it can vary, and depending on the two departments, like one, lucky we might get 4 people to show up. The other one, depending what's going on, 4 to maybe 6 or 7 at a time
Right.
will show up.
So how big are these districts that we're talking about?
I don't have the full like breakdown of like the square miles, but
No, but like roughly population, you know, a couple thousand people, a couple 10,000 people. What are we talking about?
probably a few thousand. It's a
thousand?
very rural
Yep.
Kentucky
Yep.
fringe Appalachian setting.
So about how many calls do you think, again, we don't need specific, but how many calls you run a year?
I remember when I was on here the first time, it was easily 100, 150. And now between the two departments, I could say between both departments I'm on, we probably maybe a couple hundred a year. It just depends.
Okay. So you're talking about,
one is obviously busier than the other.
right. Well, you're talking, and you touched right on the theme that we're hearing a lot. You know, you've got a roster full of people, and I said it on a conversation I had the other day. You know, of that, 50% of that list goes to, they're active. You know, 50% of that list are the people that show up all the time, and you start to realize that, you know, for my district of 3,500 people, right, that emergency services lie on about 10 people. 10 people provide emergency services for 3,500. And I don't want to slight anybody in my fire department, the other 35. They do, everybody's got time commitments. And that's kind of where I want to go with this, Paul. So what do you think right now is the reason you don't have 16 people responding to these calls?
More like that song Where the Volunteers Go. I think a lot of it's economic these days. Like, maybe people don't have time, like they have to work 2-3 jobs, and I don't know. I don't want to say people's lost their way, but maybe some of the younger generation, like the community and volunteering, just maybe it wasn't instilled in them like it was like someone like me growing up.
Yep.
And especially coming from maybe generations where you didn't have a first responder in your family, so you don't think about that.
Right.
I think if you grew up and your dad was a firefighter, your mom or whoever,
Right.
so you're automatically predispositioned to that because like you saw that growing up.
Right. So would it be safe to say then that not even just over the last 5-10 years that everybody likes to focus on, but safe to say that over the last 20 to 50 years, maybe even longer, that the fire service has struggled with community outreach, informing people what it is that we do? I mean, is that a safe assumption where you're from?
I would say so too. And like another thing, I feel the fire service, I'm very proud of our history and tradition, but at times I think we can become too institutionalized.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, I think that's definitely keeps people away. So you touched on some good points, and I think, every region has its specifics, but it always comes down to a few things for me, and I hear the common denominators, right? Time is more valuable than money, period, these days. Because I don't know how old you are, we don't need to get into that, but as you get older, obviously you start to realize that we don't get more of this, so you want to use that time wisely. This incentivized generation bothers me a little bit, and it's because you touched upon something, the tradition of it. So I'm very proud of the fact that my fire department has been serving this community nonstop with continuous volunteer coverage since 1861. Okay, I don't want on my watch. Okay, I'm a captain now. Whether or not I continue the run up to chief, yet to be seen, but say I do, I don't want this fire department, after 150, 60 years of continuous service, have to end it on my watch. And it scares the living hell out of me that within the next 5 or 10 years, I can watch this place that I grew up in go away or get filled with a career staff to outsiders who don't know the community or literally just coming here for a paycheck. And that's not to slight career guys in the least, but the pride and the tradition of the fact that all the generations that came before me did exactly what you and I are trying to accomplish. And I just wish there were more, right? So, Paul, before I let you go, if there was one thing that you could tell your community about the realities of volunteering, anything you want them to know to get them to walk through the door, what would it be?
I try all the time. Like our area on Facebook, they have a town chat, and I'm all the time talking about posting fire related stuff, like not even just locally but nationally, talking about so I'm still advocating on that level too, the crisis that we're, and hoping that someone will see that and will want to come through the door. I mean,
if you had face to face, I'm a new guy. I just walked up to the door of the fire station. Paul, I've really been thinking about joining this fire department. What do you got to tell me? Why should I do it?
Because you get the honor and the privilege of helping people like it's their worst day of their life. Their house is on fire, they're in a medical emergency, and you have the privilege that you can directly affect change, like whether somebody gets to keep their structure standing or gets to breathe for another day. And there's no greater honor in that. Like to be a first responder, the greatest act of love, if you're a first responder, is just to be able to provide overwatch for somebody, to stand back and watch and to make sure they're okay. And that's to my core being as the person that I am in my archetype. I'm the healer, the fixer, the hero. I admit I probably have a little bit of a hero complex. I think all of us do, or we wouldn't be here. But I'm all the time reaching out to people. My writing, obviously.
Yep.
I mean, so that's what I tell people, like, why would you want to join the fire department? Well,
I love that answer. You have the privilege of helping people within your community. That might just be my favorite answer I've heard this week, last year, Paul. So thank you so much for your time. I'd like to continue this conversation maybe in the upcoming months. We'll check in once in a while, see what you're working on, and talk a little shop, talk a little firefighting, talk a little music. What do you think?
Yeah, it sounds great. Like I've been honored to get to know you in the last week or so and actually talk to you and like on a human level off of this podcast and just I'm very much a proponent of what you're doing here. That's why I've been kind of promoting it myself independently. Like, hey, go check him out. Like,
I
if you're a
appreciate
firefighter, go schedule an interview. Get on here. I keep telling the guys down here. I told my captain, I was like, you need to get on here and talk about your service.
Yeah, well, we would be more than happy to have them, and I really appreciate that, Paul. Like I told you, a couple days ago, it takes all of us. It's going to take all of our voices. It's going to take all of our songs. It's going to take all of our ideas and all of our execution to pull this off. And I hold out hope that and faith that we're going to be able to do this. So, Paul, thank you so much. Until next time, I hope you take care and write me some good stuff. All right.
All right, you take care too, and good luck with everything. And I would love to see this like take off and be this huge thing.
I'll give you a fist pump for that. Let's go.
Yeah.
All right.
Paul twins unite.
Yeah, that's it. Must be a Paul thing. But again, once again, Paul, thank you very much. There's something that really stands out to me. It's not for everybody, but it's how much of this job we carry. Not just while we're on the call, but after. Because we spend a lot of time talking about what we do, but we don't always talk about what stays with us. And that's really what this one gets into. Paul talked about that call, being right there when the firefighter went down, doing CPR, riding with him, not stopping. And if you've been around this long enough, you know exactly what that feels like. Those moments don't just disappear when it's over, they stick. And for a long time, at least for me, that's just something you dealt with on your own. You didn't talk about it. You didn't process it. You just moved on to the next one. But what this conversation shows is there are other ways to deal with it. For him, it's writing. For me, it was writing too. And I think that's why this one hit home a little more than I expected it to, because it reminded me of where the firefighter song came from in the first place. I wasn't trying to make something. I was trying to make sense of something. And somehow that turned into something that helped other people too. That's the part of this that's hard to explain, but it's real. Paul and I also talked about the bigger picture, the volunteer side of things, the numbers, the reality that a lot of departments are just trying to hold it together right now. But even in the middle of that, people are still showing up, and I think his answer at the end really says it best. He said you get the honor and the privilege of helping people. And that's it. That's the reason. That's what cuts through everything else, the time, the stress, the things you see. At the end of the day, you get to be there for someone when they need it. And there's not a lot of things in life that give you that. So yeah, this one's a little deeper. It's not about the biggest call. It's not about everything else in between. It's about what happens after, what you carry, how you deal with it, and why you keep going. And if you're listening to this and you've ever felt that way, you're not the only one carrying it. That's it for this one. I appreciate you listening.